We want to turn now to Bill Rehkopf, our CBS radio news correspondent there. Bill, we heard that Senator Burr says that, as Tara was talking about there, that President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will be questioned too. Is there a sense of the scope of what the questioning might be, what the Senate there might be interested in finding?
In fact, they made great pains, Raina, to say that this was not a case where they had their questions necessarily ready yet. In fact, Senator Burr made a point early on in the press conference to say that we haven't quite put that together yet, and we're going to find out a little bit more investigatively before we decide what questions we're going to pose to him. So, they say he's willing to come and volunteer, and they said we're going to put together a list, but at least as of the moment, we're not getting much of a hint as to what those questions might be.
And Bill, they mentioned the first five that they do want to interview the individuals, not by name, of course, but they want to find out whether or not and what Russia, of course, did have when it comes to this, what they did in the past, what are they doing now currently, and the fears going forward in the future, especially with the 2018 election. What do you make of the 20 people that they're going to talk to when it comes to moving this investigation forward?
Well, it sounds like to me that they really want to get to the bottom of this because, as both men mentioned during the press conference, it's extremely concerning to them that there seems to be a dedicated effort in which people are actually being hired to exploit elections and ways into the federal government here in the United States. And so, seeing that there was some type of an apparent effect in 2016, if Vladimir Putin is emboldened to proceed in 2018 in the midterm elections, they want to try to cut it off at the pass as much as they can.
You know, the Hill does a lot of hearings, a lot of investigations, Bill, and the senators here call this one of the biggest probes the Hill has ever seen. At one point, Senator Mark Warner said, "It's the most important thing I've taken on in my public life." Put this into context for us, Bill. Where does this rank when it comes to these types of investigations on the Hill?
Well, and I think Senator Warner probably said it best early on. He said there are so many side stories that are emanating from all of this. I mean, we're talking about the House Intelligence Committee, which, ironically, they would not talk about today when questioned. They kept it to their own side of the Capitol. But there are so many side avenues and so many side stories and angles going on here. Senator Warner says, look, this is important because we're investigating at the root of it. We're investigating a foreign adversary's ability to somehow get in and potentially meddle and impact the election of the U.S. president, the leader of the free world. I think that's probably, in a nutshell, why he thinks it's the most important thing that he's ever worked on. And when you put it in that context, it's kind of hard to argue.
And Bill, talking about talking about those capabilities and the ability there, one of the senators mentioned that some of the techniques used would send chills down anyone's spine across the entire world. Is there something out there that we just don't know yet or that we haven't heard of when it comes to the techniques that could have possibly been used?
So hard to say because everybody is keeping it close to the vest. There's a lot of information out there that, reporters like you and me want to get our hands on, and we're smacking our lips. But I hate to say it, but I almost think that as we go through these Senate intelligence committees, and if the House ever picks back up again on their side, I think there's still going to be a lot lefting that we're going to be wanting to get a hold of in terms of what those abilities are. Some of that may stay undercover for quite some time, but yes, just to hear them say it, it's ominous.
And Jeff Pegues, who was there, I believe it was his question, he asked, are you coordinating with the White House? And I think it was Senator Burr who said, no, sir, I have not. And talking about how it is important to keep these separate. And also the fact that the House and Senate investigations will be separate as well. How do you see these two going, the House Intelligence Committee versus the Senate Intelligence Committee going forward?
Well, don't forget, I mean, these guys are the Gang of Eight collectively, and they're the ones who get the information briefings from the administration and from intelligence agencies on a regular basis. So these two panels actually work together quite a bit. And so when you've got the disarray going on in the House, even though they didn't want to talk about it publicly today, you have to think that both Senators Warner and Burr are really, perturbed about what's going on there. They'd like for whatever's going on the House side to be put to rest because, in the end, both of these panels are going to have to work together because when the machine is operating as it's supposed to, they operate in bipartisan fashion and bicameral fashion, and there's a lot of stuff that gets shared and there's a lot of work that gets done. So for what's happening on the House side to be disruptive as it is over there, it is, even if they won't admit it, disruptive on the Senate side as well.
And Bill, a final question for you. I know you got to rush off, but speaking of the Gang of Eight, this is the first time that this committee will have the access of the Gang of Eight information, and they're saying that it's unprecedented for this committee to have it in its history. Does that mean that we could truly get to the bottom of this before it's all said and done?
Well, let's hope so, right? I mean, because this is how the process is supposed to work, and so if we're supposed to have any faith and trust in how these processes work, we've got to think that at least moving this forward, you have good-minded and good intended people who are working not just at the legislative level, but their staffers as well, that want to get to the bottom of this and want to get to the answers. Because again, DeMarco, as Senator Warner noted, the ultimate crux of this story is you've got a foreign adversary who may very well have their fingers deeper than we would ever want or believe them to have in the U.S. political process.
All right, Bill Rehkopf with CBS Radio. Thank you for joining us,
Bill,
Bill.
thank you.